Bivens is going to do the invocation for us tonight.
The pastor didn't come.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I had a pastor once say, always be ready to preach, pray, or die, and said if it's multiple choice, I'd pick the first two. So please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for a day that you've created, this beautiful fall weather. We thank you for an evening that we can gather to do the business of Lee County. And we just ask for a blessing on each and every one here, and that we, that our hearts and our minds are united, that we are serving you. And we just thank you for all that you've done. We pray these things in the name that is above all names, the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen. He can do it.
Thank you, Tim. We'll go to roll call. Nancy.
Acree,
Here.
Bivens,
Here.
Book, Dallas,
Here.
Friel,
Here.
Gascoigne,
Here.
Hudson,
Present.
Huss, Kitson,
Present.
Copine,
Present.
Laram,
Here.
Naylor,
Present.
Pearson, Sheline,
Here.
Shippert, here, Scrogstad,
Here.
White,
Here.
Wilson, Zeman,
Here.
Olson.
Present. Thank you. Under announcements, I got please mute or turn your cell phones off so they don't interrupt our meeting.
Didn't work.
And now we'll go to the sheriff's going to present a life-saving award to Lee County Deputy Kyle Kellen and Amboy Police Officer Tom Lehman.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Deputy Kyle Kellen of Lee County Sheriff's Office and Amboy Police Officer Tom Lehman for their exemplary performance in the line of duty. Well, let me give you a little background. On August 24th at approximately 3:53 p.m., while during the Amboy Depot Days Parade, Lee County 911 received a call from the last alarm regarding a female that had collapsed and CPR was in progress. The female was later identified as Roberta Glenn, an employee of Last Alarm. Within 2 minutes, Officer Tom Lehman of the Amboy Police Department arrived at the scene to assist with life-saving efforts. At 3:56 p.m., Deputy Kyle Kellen arrived with his AED. CPR was still being conducted on Mrs. Glenn. Deputy Kellen affixed the pads of the AED to Mrs. Glenn to analyze her heart rhythm. The AED subsequently advised him to deliver a shock. A shock was delivered and CPR was continued until medical personnel from the Amboy Fire Department arrived. While CPR was still being administered, Ms. Glenn took a large gasp of air and she began breathing on her own. Officer Lehman assessed Ms. Glenn and advised other personnel that she had a strong pulse. This incident was recorded on surveillance video from the Last Alarm and has since been incorporated into a medical response training for the Basic Law Enforcement Academy at Sauk Valley Community College. Please play the video. There should be audio.
.53 p.m. from the Last Alarm bar reporting that a worker had collapsed. Lee County 911 Center then toned out Amboy EMS along with local law enforcement. While on the phone with 911, it was reported that CPR was in progress by bystanders that were inside the establishment. At 3:55 p.m., Officer Tom Lehman with the Amboy Police Department arrives on scene to assist with the life-saving efforts. At 3:56 p.m., Deputy Kyle Kellen with the Lee County Sheriff's Office arrives on scene with the AED. Both officers arrive to see that bystanders are still actively doing CPR. Deputy Kellen then places the AED on the victim to analyze the heart rhythm. The AED then analyzes the patient, indicating a shock was needed. One shock was delivered to the victim, still with no pulse. Deputy Kellen then continues with CPR. Everybody assisted in moving the patient to place the Lucas device. The Lucas device is an external chest compression system that is utilized for doing chest compressions for long periods of time. Luckily, this device will not be needed while on scene. At this time, the victim takes a large breath and starts breathing on her own. Officer Lehman is checking for a pulse and reports that she now has a strong pulse. Deputy Bailey Smith and Officer Hart show up, advising that they have already cleared out the pedestrians for the ambulance to leave with no issue. We would like to recognize the amazing group effort by everybody involved for saving this life on 8/24/2024 in Amboy, Illinois.
Well, everyone, as you have seen, Roberta Glenn was successfully revived and is alive today because of their performance. I spoke with Miss Glenn and invited her to the presentation today. She's still on the mend, but she wanted to convey her sincere gratitude to these individuals. I would also like to express how proud I am to work alongside these gentlemen. Please join me in congratulating now Corporal Kyle Kellen, who's been promoted, and Officer Tom Lehman on the receipt of the life-saving awards. Thank you. Chief Paul Smith from the Amboy Police Department is here, and I think he wants to say a few words.
Thank you, Sheriff. At first, I wasn't going to talk because I'm afraid I'm going to do what the sheriff did. Because I was thinking about it last night, was sitting at home there, and I know Mrs. Glenn. My kids are good friends with her kids, and so when all this occurred, I said to myself, you couldn't ask for two better officers. Deputy Kellen and Officer Lehman respond. They've both been in this situation before. They've helped people. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, Officer Lehman helped, I believe it was a 3-year-old. Helped it to get breathing again. So, but when I heard they were on the scene, I was out in my squad and I heard they were going there. There were so many people there. I said, they're going to take care of her. And they did exactly what they've been trained to do. They did their job. And it's kudos to the sheriff's department. Kudos to the Amboy Police Department for all the training. It paid off. I want to thank you guys. Not too many people know that Deputy Kellen first started working for Amboy Police Department, and he leaves me and goes with the sheriff's department. But I knew that was going to happen. And Officer Lehman, him and I grew up together. I had the opportunity to hire him. You're hired. I want to thank you guys. Outstanding job. And I talked to Mrs. Glenn the other day in the park. She was out walking and she was very grateful for you guys. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Awesome job, guys. Amboy and Lee County is lucky to have you. So, thank you. We'll move on to the approval of minutes from September 19th, regular county board meeting. It was pointed out to me today, there's a minor change found in the minutes for September 19th. In the section with Tom Dimmer's report, Karen Road should have been spelled C-A-R-O-N Court instead of K-A-R-E-N Road. If there's no other corrections, I'd entertain a motion to approve the changes to the minutes. Mr. Kitson moves, Ms. Naylor seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Monthly resolutions, there's 9 Joseph Meyer resolutions this month. If there's no objections, I'd entertain a motion to approve all at once. Mr. Hudson moves, Ms. White seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor of doing all 9 Joseph Meyer resolutions at once, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, take a motion to approve the Joseph Meyer resolutions for parcel numbers 02, 15, 15, 357, 015. 15 and parcel number 15, 07, 15, 206, 008. And 1507, 15, 256, 026. Also 13, 21, 12, 206, 016. 19, 22, 07, 302, 028. Also 13, 21, 01, 304, 032. 13, 21, 02, 327, 018. 13, 21, 11, 127, 010. And last, 13, 21, 11, 176, 022. I need a motion to approve them. Ms. Naylor moves. Mr. Cobbeen seconds. Any discussion on these 9? If none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Zoning and planning, there's a monthly report in your packet, just looking at what the overview of what their office and activities and the petitions coming forward. It's there for your review. We'll go to B. There are 3 petitions going to the ZBA of Appeals, Zoning Board of Appeals. Petition 24-P-1631 by Sanjay Desai, who's in the process of purchasing a portion of certain real property currently identified as PIN number 11-16-31-100-015. All the details are in your agenda packet. Is there a motion to move this petition 24-P-1631 to the ZBA of Appeals? Mr. Friel moves, Mr. Sheeline seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We got questions on these. We got Alice here. She can explain to us as we go. So we'll go to number 2. Petition number 24-P-1632 by Jeffrey A. Lewis, owner of certain real property identified as PIN number 070217252015. The full details of this are in your agenda packet. Is there a motion to move this petition 24-P-1632 to the ZBA? Mr. Friel moves. Ms. Naylor seconds. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we'll go to number 3, petition number 24-P-1633, Anthony and Lisa Winstead as owners of certain real property identified as PIN number 12-14-17-300-001. Full details are in your packet. Again, is there a motion to approve or motion to move this petition to Zoning Board of Appeals? Petition number is 24-P-1633. Mr. Gascoigne moves, Mr. Kitson seconds. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On C, I have no petitions going to the Planning Commission. On D, I have, there's one petition coming from Zoning Board of Appeals, and that petition is number 24-P-1628 by Jacob Lytle and Emma Lytle, owners of real property known as 14, PIN number 14-09-05-300-012. Full details are in your packet. Again, is there a motion to approve the resolution for petition 24-P-1628? Mr. Sheline moves, Ms. Shippert seconds. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I have no petitions coming from the Planning Commission. So we'll go down to number 9, Administrator Monthly Update and Board Member Comments. We'll start with Jeremy and we'll go to the Board Member Comments. Jeremy?
Just briefly wanted to yet again thank all of the Lee County department heads, finance committee members and finance team, and the levy and FY25 budget process on the agenda today. We're going to be voting to hold that over, both of those over to the November board meeting to be voted to place on file. It was a very fantastic process with everybody, and we do appreciate that and everybody's efforts there. On another note, seems like many moons ago, but we had an initiative called the Lee County Broadband Breakthrough. We're continuing to work on that. That initiative was working with internet service providers, local key stakeholders, and other folks throughout the county in identifying broadband deserts essentially throughout the county, and trying to identify and work with internet service providers to create a plan and application that the providers will put out to try to attract, the upwards of $1 billion that the state has out there for broadband infrastructure that they're going to be continuing to invest into the state. I'm happy to announce we have had some fruitful discussions with a handful of providers that are actively in the process of applying for that funding within Lee County, and hopefully in the near future, we can have some great news that I can share with you. So, it's going to be some fun things on the horizon and connectivity. So we're excited about that. But just wanted to make sure folks know that, hey, this is still an active project. It's been a few months since we've actually discussed it. And we're excited to see what comes next.
That's it?
That is it, unless anybody has any questions.
Questions for Jeremy? If not, now is the time for board member comments. Any board member would like to ship it?
Yeah, I just had some questions about zoning. I might have missed my opportunity a little bit. But my question is that in the report, it talks about South Dixon Solar coming forward at the 3-year mark and wanting to be deemed substantially underway. And my questions were around what are the criteria for that and how is that determined?
Charlie, you want to take that, or it comes from our zoning officer, but you know how that works? I'm sure you do, but
I can certainly prepare a memo for it.
all right. You want to do it that way, or?
And there's a whole portion that the zoning administrator will go through in terms of how far they've come in their process, what they've done to establish where the project is at, certain conditions that they've met that have to go along with the permit itself. It's all obviously before the building permit portion of this, but I believe there's been 3 or 4 that we've done in the past already that have asked for the substantially underway consideration. And I don't know, get into more detail if you'd like.
Well, South Aldina Solar, I think is what you alluded to earlier today, correct?
Yeah, one of the projects wasn't passed by the board, South Aldina Solar, and that was back in June 2023. And so the question, was surrounding, were they not substantially underway? And, what did that look like?
When I discussed it with Alice,
Mhm.
I don't think the developer asked to go to extend it at that time. They just let it go.
Mhm.
So that's why we voted it to, they didn't ask for an extension.
Okay.
So that's how that ended up.
So Charlie, you might be able to provide a memo on that with what that criteria looks like. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
More board member comments, questions? And thank you. Thanks, Charlie. We'll move on to public comments. I don't have anybody requested. Do we? Nope. Okay. I have no county organization presentations or updates this evening, so we'll go right into reports of committee and got big things out of Mr. Scrogstad tonight. Jack, County Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. County Services met a couple weeks ago, and everything that is in my report is in the agenda packet. A couple things I want to point out. It's probably needs to be updated a little bit, but early voting is up and running right now. As of Friday the 4th, Nancy passed out or mailed out 2232 ballots, mail-in or mail-out ballots. Is that still correct? Or is it even higher? But it's even higher, of course, yes. And then as of that Friday the 4th, 461 of those ballots have been returned. And I'm sure that's even higher as well. Yep. And as of that date, 576 people have come in and voted early. Now I've tried to come in a couple times and it's been packed. So I think it's excellent.
Yeah,
we
it's
have-
gone up from, we were averaging about 105 and like Tuesday, we did 265 early voters on Tuesday.
That is awesome. And
So-
I continue to recommend everybody get out there and vote early. And I appreciate our local newspaper putting out there that anything can happen, that you should probably go out and vote early and get her done. And get her done. I'm sorry.
I was afraid you just say early and often, so. go
Yeah,
ahead.
early and often, yeah. That's another story. Or anyway, I appreciate the Sauk Valley meeting for putting that out too. So anyway, so I urge everybody to go out there and vote and get out there and I already said, get her done. So that's all I have. Anyone's got any questions?
Questions or comments for Jack? Thanks, Jack. Public Safety and Court Services, Mr. Copine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety met October 8th here in this room. The meeting was a little shorter. The department heads had given their reports. Also, they are on file and available in the packet. We didn't have anything under old business or new business, and we didn't have anything for an executive meeting. Basically, that's all I have unless there's questions.
Questions or comments for Mike? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll go to Facilities and Maintenance Committee, Mr. Friel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on Tuesday, October 8th. We got a report from Eric England on progress across the street. We're still waiting on a compressor before they can do their final checks. The new courtroom, I believe, is up and running or real close to that. So if anybody's got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Me and Jeremy were was that yesterday, Jeremy? We're at the new courtroom Tuesday. And any board member, you need to go check it out. It's something to be proud of. Jim, you were there. What was your thoughts? I mean, it's state of the art and our people did a nice job.
You know, the thing that amazes me is when we looked at that and we're walking around with the maintenance guys and cinder block. I mean, it was a cinder block room. And you walk into this thing and it's a beautiful courtroom. It's state of the art electronics. The size, we ended up they took a little bit of the law library, downsized the law library, but overall, and like Bob says, I encourage everybody to go over and check it out. It's really amazing. So how that worked out.
Yes, and a lot of that they did with the grant, the electronics and that they did with what, $1 million grant?
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that we got to give kudos to, the folks across the street and Amy Johnson, our city clerk, to managing that and going out and getting that grant for us. So, that was a fantastic thing. That's why we're, getting a electronic upgrade to become state of the art and actually get into the times, because we were a little bit antiquated.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody got anything for questions for Dean? Thanks, Dean. Go to Claims Committee, Mr. Zeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 meetings to report on. The minutes are in your packet. We met on September 18th at 9 a.m. here in the room next door. We initiated and reviewed 45 claims. All 45 were forwarded to the county board. The next meeting was on October 2nd at 9 a.m. We went through 65 claims. All 65 were forwarded to the county board for ratification. That's my report, unless anybody has any questions.
No, I just want to add that your committee does a wonderful job. They caught a couple of problems this week and we fixed them. So you guys scrutinize them claims good. And I mean, I think we'll continue forward with that. I like the process.
Thank you. My committee does a great job.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. Mr. Sheeline, Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met last Thursday and finished up. We have the levy ordinance for for everybody to lay on the table this month, and also the budget ordinance. I'll kind of add on to what Jeremy had already said in regards to working with the department heads this year, working with Reed and Paul and Jeremy through the process. And I really want to thank my committee for the work they did as far as sitting through all the hearings and sifting through the conflicting. I mean, budget's tough, especially as you come into a year where we had a FOP contract increase. We have a lot of things that come together that made the budget challenging, but we got through it, and I hope for your approval later on in the agenda. Start with, as far as the monthly regular Finance Committee report goes, we're going to be ending up the year pretty much as projected. If you look at the revenues are tracking pretty much where we thought. So unless you have any questions regards specifically on that, we're on track for ending the year pretty much where we thought we were going to be. We had later on in new business, we have a kind of a cleanup in regards to ARPA. And that's simply for some expenses that needed to be moved over and put back into the ARPA account, and that's for your approval tonight. That's pretty much it. I will now hold on and hand over to Jeremy as far as let's go through the levy, and we'll go through that. Encourage any questions as we go through both the levy and the budget ordinance. So Jeremy, I will hand it over to you.
Do we want to wait for that until new business?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. I'm just doing the report. Whatever you want to do, Mr. Chairman.
Let's wait and we'll do them both and we're gonna go through that.
Okay, thank you. I guess I got ahead of myself. I was just
You're so excited.
You work so hard to get this thing done and just get wound up.
I remember the first budget I did, I sat next to Mr. Kitson and I had all the answers. Remember, I had all them papers and not one question. Nobody asked me a question. So,
Well, anyway, that would conclude my report, Mr. Chairman.
any questions for Mr. Sheeline? Thanks, Jim. The executive committee, the minutes are in your agenda. I didn't attend. Tom chaired the committee for me. If there's any questions, Tom and I could help you out with it. If none, we're going to move on to Board of Health. Ms. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of updates. We didn't have a meeting this month. Our next meeting will be November 12th at 6:30 at the Health Department. You're welcome to join. They are very quick. We have a new lead nurse. She's getting up to speed, and next week is lead prevention week. So we're encouraging all women who are pregnant to get testing and children 12 months to 6 years of age. Our infectious disease coordinator has revamped our employee respiratory protection plan, and they began to fit employees. Excuse me. Kathy has been in communication with KSB to outline the provider process for referring patients to use for their contraceptive needs after January 1st. Don't know if you're all aware of those changes. If you have questions, I can talk to you about that with what's happening with KSB. And as of today, the health department has a vacancy for a front office support staff, and the job has been posted. That's it.
All right. Any questions for Katie? Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Later on in the agenda, we're gonna have some questions, or we'll be ready to approve the ordinance we're gonna lay over. Okay, thank you. 911 Board, Mr. Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to the report September minutes already provided by Director Dallas, the Lee County 911 has successfully migrated to the mandated state of Illinois AT&T Emergency Services IP network. Basically, this means that Brightspeed is no longer Lee County service provider. AT&T will serve as a provider for Lee County's 911 system. This successful transition has been a 2-year migration path in planning, testing, and training phases to complete and finalize. More details are provided in the September packet. The draft budget was presented and discussed, and today, a new telecommuter started with the 911 committee or board. She will be placing Laura Enlow, who is actually scheduled to retire December 1. The next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 24th at 3:30 p.m. at the Lee County 911 Center.
Any questions or comments? Thanks, Keen.
Thank you, sir.
Tri-County Opportunities Council, Mr. Acree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tri-County Opportunities Council Board met September 24th. The minutes are in your packet. It's pretty comprehensive, so want to allow a little bit of time to read through those. I think they're pretty solid, but I don't have anything other than that.
All right, any questions or comments for Reed? Thanks, Reed. Blackhawk Hills Council, Lee Ogle Enterprise Zone, Ms. Shippert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next meeting for the BHRC is going to be November 12th at 6 p.m. They're going to be discussing a comprehensive economic development strategy document. So what the BHRC really does is looks at things region-wide and does a lot of data analysis. If you're interested in those things, as a member of the community, you should go to their website. They do have a public comment period for this particular document on how our region will be developed. And in addition, a lot of other data that could be pertinent that just people in general might want to look at. It's very interesting. So it's blackhawkhills.com, I believe is the website, and they're Blackhawk Hills Regional Council. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
They used to give us a booklet with all that information. They still do that, or do they? We used to pass it out at board meetings with all that information.
Are you referring to the comprehensive plan that I'm talking about?
Yes, and then they had the medium house income for the counties and all that. That was pretty informational.
Yeah, I can bring some of that data back here.
Yeah.
I think being the time frame that it is, it's important to probably go online and
Sure.
look, and also make your own public comments as well.
Yep.
For what you want to see.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Angie? Thanks, Angie. Lasita, Mr. Acree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was not able to attend the meeting on October 2nd. No, I believe Jeremy might have been able to make it. Were you able to make it, Jeremy?
Yeah, sure was. And it was a pretty decent meeting. We had discussed a handful of projects that Mr. Demmer had really shed some light on the last time he was here. They're the same projects that are continuing in the works. There's a few that are little bit further along than the last time he visited us last month to discuss some of these things. And hopefully in the near future, again, we could open up some of that information. But 28 active projects going on in the Lee County industrial zone by the Rochelle Park and within the Dixon Industrial Park as well. So there's a lot of great things that are potentially on the horizon. If we land just a few of those, we'd be very excited. But keep in mind that those active projects come and go. But this is the most interest we have seen in a very long time. So we're going to continue to grow that interest and build upon that. And that's through the great work of the county, the municipalities that are involved, GREDCO, Lee County Industrial Development Association, Jason Anderson and Mr. Demmer or Tom Demmer have done a great job as well. And we're going to continue to build upon that. So appreciate it.
Any comments or questions for these two? Thanks, guys. We'll go to Surma, Mr. Zeman.
Yeah, no meeting to report on, but on October 25th, I will be attending the Surma meeting in Bloomington.
All right, thank you. UCCI, Mr. Kitson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last month I attended the meeting in Springfield and we had two good seminars on personal property replacement tax. And I believe they have sent you.
Yes, I do. And I should send that out. I'll send that out to the board members
it,
tomorrow.
I don't want to try to explain it because they did such a great job with it, but it does make you understand how it works and why it's been cut the way it has. And then we also had a group from Farm Bureau on solar and wind presentation, and I will be attending this month's meeting next week. Any questions? I believe that's in the packet, but any questions? Be glad to.
Questions for Tom? Tom, let's make sure we email that out to the board members tomorrow that
Yeah, you have it. I don't think I got it, but.
All right. That breakdown is really neat how they broke it down. So, all right. Any questions or comments for him?
Mr. Chairman, I did ask them if they've ever thought about putting all these little mini seminars they do online so that all board members could see them who don't attend the meetings. They said they would look into that and see what they could do. They thought it was a good idea. So we'll see what happens.
That was a great idea, really. And we could look at them at our leisure too,
Yeah.
All right. Any questions or comments? None. We'll keep moving on. Thank you. We got IACBM, Mr. Copine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. At this point, there's still nothing to report on. I mean, I guess everybody in Springfield is patiently awaiting the veto session and either that or maybe a lame duck session or something. So as soon as the news breaks, I'll let everybody know.
Sometimes no news is good news. So thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. I've got no move on. We got no unfinished business. Under new business, I have an ordinance for Lee County Health Department food ordinance. We need to hold it over for next month. Let's get a motion, then we'll talk about it. Okay, is there a motion to hold over Lee County Health Department food ordinance until November meeting? Mr. Copine moves, Mrs. Naylor seconds it. Under discussion, Katie, you want to share with us what all this is?
Sure. So it's just changes that we made to the food code to comply with some state codes that are coming out. And so we had to change wording to reflect the 2022 FDA food codes that will be implemented January 1st. So we had to comply with those changes. And then what we did is we expanded the ability for temporary permits to be bought for multi-events. And you could buy a pack of temporary permits to be purchased at a discount. I think there were some questions about language in regards to the penalty section that I think we had. There was no changes in regards to the penalty section, meaning when people get charged for not complying and we charge them any penalties. This isn't something you'll be voted on. It wasn't changed. It hasn't been amended. No changes were made. We have never in the 21 years that I know Kathy has been in the health department ever implemented any fines or fees that are associated with the maximum of this $1,000 a day fine. The goal of the health department is to work with companies. We don't want to fine them. We do everything we can to make sure they're in compliance. We help them if they can be. We try to help our facilities. They help us as a community. We want entrepreneurs to be very successful. There's never been an extreme situation that we've ever had to go to the extreme for any of those charges. If you have any other questions, let me know. If I can't answer them, I will be sure to as soon as possible, or I can ask Kathy as well.
Sure.
that make sense to everyone? Okay, thank you,
Questions or
Mr. Chair.
comments for Katie? All right, I have a first and a second, so we'll go with the move to vote. All those in favor of holding this over till November meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Katie. We're gonna go to the ordinance for the 2024, I think this is an error, but the FY 25 levy. We'll need to hold this over till next month. Jeremy, I'm sure you want to give a presentation here, but let's get a motion on for first. Do we have a motion? Mr. Kitson moves, Ms. Naylor seconds it. Jeremy?
Yeah, not an error. It's the 24 tax levy that's placed and put into effect for 25.
Okay.
So in front of you, you see the ordinance that was crafted, discussed at the finance committee meeting last week. We have, the tax levy ordinance that we're expecting to be voted on today to be held over and voted on to be placed on file November 21st. At our board meeting, the total levy request is $9,439,552, which is about $680,172 increase more than last year, which is 7.77%. The increase is primarily due to a significant increase in our estimated new property, which has an assessed value of roughly $45 million. So the county's proposed tax rate will be approximately 0.8497 per $100 of EAV. So that is up from 0.8228 in 2003. If you look below, there is the 2 years of levies and tax rates with the percent of changes in that table. You could see within the funds, the differences in the increase. We're looking at a 10.6% increase in the corporate fund, a decrease of roughly 5% in county highway, increase in bridge, increase in tuberculosis, increase in federal aid highway, and a very slight decrease in the other two. So that's what we're making up. So again, at the bottom of this, it talks about what this looks like for a median price, home valued at $150,000. This would result in an annual estimated tax bill increase of $11.82. So one of the things to keep in mind when we're talking about the levy and what this looks like is we are not increasing the tax bases tax increase of to 7.77%. We are a PTEL county. That means we are a property tax extension limitation law county. With that, we have the ability to increase taxes by the lesser of either 5%, which is the cap, or CPI. And currently this year's CPI is 3.4%. So that is what the actual increase on the tax base is. The 7.7% in the increase in overall revenue is talking about the full capture with the new construction tax base that is coming in that we will not have captured previously. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of an increase. I just want to make sure that, that is not a 7.7% increase on all of the tax base. It is a 3.4% increase on the existing tax base with a 7.7% capture on the new construction. Does anybody have any questions on that? I'm trying to break it down to make sure folks realize it's really a pretty, small increase, and comparable to previous years. And, we're trying to make sure that as we continue to build, you could see what the effect of new construction has on the levy. When we're talking about all this potential economic development, this new construction, when our new construction increases, that assessed value really helps out the standard, residential tax base. So let's say we continue to increase that, the burden on the existing tax base lessens when new construction continues to rise.
The 7.7% increase, 4.3% is new construction is what he's trying to tell you. And there's $135 million of new construction in the county, which is huge. Right. So we want to continue to see that grow. So any questions or comments?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, the 45 million and the new construction assessed value is significant.
More questions or comments? I think I'm going to do this as a roll call vote. I don't think I have to, but I think maybe we better. So Nancy, would you do that way?
Shippert,
Yes.
Scrogstad,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Zeman,
Yes.
Acree,
Yes.
Bivens,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
Freo,
Yes.
Gascoigne,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Kitson,
Yes.
Coopine,
Yes.
Laram,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Sheline,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. We'll move on to the ordinance for the 2025 budget. This will be held over again until next month in November. Is there a motion to hold over the ordinance for the FY 2025 budget until November meeting? Mr. Bivens moves. Ms. Dow seconds it. Any discussion? Jeremy?
I'm going to pass this over to Reed. He's going to give a light overview of the budget, some of the changes from last year and where this lies and how we came up with it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, everybody. No, I'll skip over the property tax piece. I think that's pretty much explained by the levy and Jeremy's explanation. From a revenue side of things, most of the sources of revenue we expect to be relatively consistent with last year with slight increases. The one that I think we'd like to kind of point out that it's maybe different than all the rest is the PPRT, personal property replacement tax that Mr. Kitson mentioned earlier. And we have received notification from the state that that is going to go down again this year. I believe it's probably roughly going to be 65% of what we received in the previous year. I think 2 years ago, we were receiving almost 1.5 million, and in FY25, we expect that to be down to around 700,000. So that, we're need to make up for that. I think the new construction within the property tax is going to help us out a lot with that. From a high level, not a whole lot of change on a department level. This year, we are forecasting some transfers in from capital and solid waste, $200,000 from each to basically match our revenues with our expenditures for a net revenue of $2,680. If any questions, I can dive deeper if there's any specific questions on particular departments or, yeah.
Thanks, Reed.
Yeah.
My question is just when we think about departments, who maybe has the greatest change and why?
It may not be evident from a particular department level, but we do have several union contracts that will be in negotiations within the next few weeks, and that encompasses multiple departments. And I would also say historically, from what I've been told, what happens with a lot of those union contracts affects a lot of the other individuals that really only fall under the employee handbook, not under a union contract. So we have, we don't have it specifically divvied out within departments at the moment, but we have it in contingencies for when those union contracts are finally settled and we can figure out where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm. What departments are going under those contracts?
The treasurer's office, the circuit clerk's office, the clerk and recorder's office all have union negotiations. The treasurers and circuit clerk are together, the clerk and recorder and treasurers are together, and the circuit clerk has their own negotiations. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the question I get asked is our expenses are up $1 million. Would you equate that to salaries or what would you? I don't mean-
Yes.
Don't mean to put you on the spot. but-
No, no. Well, I mean, if from the grand scheme of things, our breakdown of where our expenses go as a county is close to 70% salaries.
Yeah.
So that's our biggest piece. Every year we have negotiations for union contracts. Last year we had one with our biggest department, our largest number of employees. So, which I think they deserved raises.
Yep.
We were a bit behind in terms of where other similar job positions were locally. So I think we did what we could to correct that. But yeah, that's our biggest expenditure.
Yeah, we did need to correct it. We did need to move it up. Ms. Shepherd?
Yeah, just wondering what our overhead, like in terms of salaries, what you're talking about compares to counties of relative size.
That might
It's a
take a little
quiz.
bit more investigation. Each county is going to be a little different from a size perspective and what exists in the county. I mean, we have Ogle County that's very close to us, probably relatively close to us in size. However, just with one property tax owner alone, they probably receive almost 45% of what we would get from our tax base from one property tax owner or property owner. So kind of hard to compare us to Ogle County because of that. But we could definitely try to find similar counties that are similar to us in size and see how we compare up.
I think that'd be helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
When I looked at it, we're very reasonable, very conservative. We don't have the AV other counties do around us because of the PTEL and the issue that we're restricted. What's Ogle County's EAV? Mr. Sheeline, you got that?
Oh, you want me, I have that at the top of my head?
I think it's 1.5 times or 2 times Lee County, right?
Yeah, it's roughly 2 times our EAV. So one comment in regards to this discussion is that we are in this budget, we are adding a little bit when we're talking about overhead and salaries. So the main driver is the increase in salaries in the FOP contract that's baked into that contract. Has been mentioned, we've got the 2 Teamsters contracts that we have to settle, and then we've got non-union and those the estimates of cost of those contracts we do have baked into this budget. So we have taken that into account. The other thing I would mention as far as we did have a modest increase in headcount in this budget. Charlie needed another assistant state's attorney that is in this budget. We also put in budget for a HR person that has been, we've talked about many times and we could talk about tonight if we wanted to, but that's, we really think is important as part of the evolution of bringing our county to a more professional standard. And that's going to really help out Jeremy's office and create a lot of efficiencies for us. And then I think we have in the budget 1 additional patrol officer in Clay's budget, if I remember right? I don't want to say something out of bounds. Yeah, so there's some positive things that are happening in this budget. It was a challenging budget to get it, and I want to remind the board members that again, we're showing as a positive balanced budget, which we're required to do by statute. But how we got there and did this, even with the new property that we're capturing with the levy, we're having to draw from capital. The other thing I want the board members to look at, if you look at our capital, we're spending a lot of money in capital. We're showing that we're spending a lot of money out of capital. A lot of those projects that we're putting in there for will not get done. But it's things to remind us, that they have to get done at some point. I'll use the example of case management in the circuit clerk's office. There's $1 million set aside out of capital for the new software program that the circuit clerk's working on right now. Now, we're hoping that we will have an offset of a grant that will pay for that upgrade. If we get it, that's fine, but we had to put it in the capital budget because we know that that's going to be an expense that we incur this year. So there's those kind of things that we have to keep in mind. We can, I'm excited about this budget in regards that we got it done. We started off with a $1.4 million deficit, and through the work of the finance team, the department heads, we were able to get that down to a positive budget as we're required to do. So appreciate the questions, Angie, and any others. I don't want to stop the
Yeah, I
discussion.
do have more questions. One's probably a quicker question. One might be a little bit longer. The first is, are you saying that we need to go through FOP negotiations again this year? Because that's what I heard.
No.
Okay.
No,
Mr. Chairman.
No. And what is our contract? We're good for 3 years or 4?
3 years. 3 years.
3 years. But, we needed to raise it up. We kept losing deputies to go in other counties, other cities.
Every year.
And I think we got it up for a respectable number now where we're compensating them. And we've seen tonight what kind of quality deputies we have. Please. And your other question?
Yeah, the other question is just about, just a conversation about HR in general. I don't feel like we've openly talked about this as a board. In my experience working in corporate, I found that, HR can add a lot of red tape, and we don't necessarily need that. It sounds like we've operated this whole time without it, where we as board members are helping to interview and hire directly. I understand that might take quite a bit of time for a couple individuals. But there's 20 board members, so maybe we could think about spreading that out. And I'm just bringing this up as a point of discussion because in my experience, I've seen that. So.
Well, we put it in the budget because I feel we need it. We've got 190, 200 employees. We got FMLA issues all the time we're dealing with, but we can still go through committee. We haven't hired that person to fill that, but we wanted to have at least that money set aside in the budget. So if we decide to go that direction, we could, but we could have a debate whether we need it or not. Me and Jeremy and the rest of us are working it every day. With 200 employees, you need an HR department. And I agree with you. Sometimes it's overblown, but there's stuff we're dealing with all the time. Jeremy?
Yeah, this is something that we've been discussing for the better part of the year since I've actually gotten board. And I know the county's been discussing this prior to me being in this role. But I think one of the things that we were trying to do is create a culture of professional government here with, being accountable to our taxpayers and constituents as well as to each other. There is a lot of aspects of HR that I think the county does not perform at its best because we do not have someone in that role to specifically do those duties. I take on the majority of those duties along with other department heads. And at times, it gets a little bit tough because there may be situations where the department head should not be actively involved in a situation. I should not be actively involved in a situation. And, I love the board members. You guys are fantastic, but we are in the operations every day. It's a little bit of a different scenario being here on a daily basis, involved in the workflow, involved in the day-to-day aspect of operations. And I think one of the goals that we were trying to do, as I said, is create a professional administrative structure here. And it's not necessarily about creating red tape. It's about making sure that we're staying in compliance, that, we have multiple collective bargaining agreements, that we're in compliance with those at all times, that we're in compliance with, state and federal insurance law practice. One of the things that we had talked about as a group and as a team as, Charlie's looking to bring in, the state's attorney's office is looking to bring in another, assistant attorney is to assist in the civil aspect of what is continuing to have growing cases within the county, within county liability itself and within county services. That is something that's continuing to grow within county operations as well. And HR is just another layer of that. So, I think it's an investment that would pay dividends in return to the taxpayers as we're looking at the liability alone, what could happen in a lawsuit due to us not being in compliance. Again, my full-time job, as the county administrator, a third of my time is taken up by HR. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is it really deserves a full-time position because I can't focus fully on all of that while trying to do my other duties. And that's where I've been continuing to advocate for that. So, I appreciate the thought of trying to save the dollars, but I really think in return, we would be saving the county substantial money by mitigating potential liability and lawsuits that could become, thousands, if not millions of dollars in expense.
Charlie's office has been very good to us when we ask for legal advice, but one thing we didn't talk about is the employees need the protection of HR too as well. And it's just, we all need, I think, to take a deep dive in this, and I do think we need the position. We can still go through committee with, through county services, Jack, if you want to discuss it or whatever. I think everything should go through committee here, but we want to make sure we had the money available.
Yeah, I have no problem having it come through here, through us, and then, invite anyone to come in and be part of that discussion as well. So, I personally, as a retiree, was trying to deal with a couple of things, and Jeremy was busy trying to take care of the county, and I didn't want to bother him with it when there should have been somebody that I could have gone to and they could have been right at it. Instead, it took a couple of weeks. I mean, we got it done, no big deal. But, but there's those little things going on. So in a way, I think we need it.
Yeah,
that's just my experience of it.
Sure.
As well. But yeah, let's have a discussion on it, talk me out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think that's definitely fair. And I thank you, Jeremy, for offering what you're saying about it. I just like the idea of when there's 20 people in the room, being able to talk about it. I like going to committee as well, but when you have 20 voices, it's just good for open discussion, I feel.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any questions, other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Zeman.
Yeah, whenever I go to the CIRMA meeting, they have various presentations, and one of them is HR. They have a gal available to help set up an HR department, not to do the HR, but to help set up. So there's resources in that respect. We help setting up an HR department.
I'm sure they'd like us to have HR too, to limit their liability, I would think.
Right. That's their whole idea.
And a few years ago, we hired an HR firm, and I can't remember the name of it, but I think we were paying $28,000 to them. And we blew through that budget because we were calling them all the time. There's more than you think going on here. So.
Yeah, well, just further in the years I've been here on the county board, in our previous two back, every administrator we've had has made the same comment is that I just don't have the time to devote to the HR issues that are here that come on a daily basis. And so,
As chair, I was dealing with a lot of them too before Wendy and Jeremy come along, and there's a lot. His 30% is weak, I think, or a third. But anyhow. Yes, Mr. Kitson.
If you will, just a quick comment that there's a whole lot more to HR than just time.
Yeah.
It's the expertise, and we need somebody who's educated in it, not just, and one person that funnels it through. And no offense to you, Jeremy, or anybody else that's been ahead of you, but it's a professional job.
Well, I don't want to go open that door, but yes, I agree. So. All right, any other comments? We got a first and second. I'm going to do a roll call vote and land this budget over as well. Nancy?
Schragstad,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Zeman,
Yes.
Acree,
Yes.
Bivens,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
Freo,
Yes.
Gascoigne,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Kitson,
Yes.
Copine,
Yes.
Laram,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Sheline,
Yes.
Shippert,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Let's keep moving on. We've got D, ARPA expense reallocation request. That's what Mr. Sheeline alluded to earlier. Is there a motion to approve the reallocation of $210 of unexpended health department fees to the ARPA capital? Mr. Hudson moves, Mr. Kitson seconds. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go down to the resolution amending the coroner's salary. Is there a motion to approve the resolution amending the coroner's salary? Ms. Shippert moves, Ms. Schragstad seconds it. Any discussion? I think we're setting the salary for $42,500 for the next 4 years.
Mr. Chairman.
That's what?
So just to explain to the board, because if they remember, we had approved a previous resolution. This is a correction on what we had approved previously. And there was a scrivener's error, and that's been corrected. And this salary is fixed for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thanks for the explanation. I don't remember.
Yes.
All right. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor of amending the coroner salary resolution, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think that's it. If I didn't forget anything here, we have no appointments this month, no executive session. I need a motion to approve the circuit clerk report and the county clerk report. Ms. Naylor moves, Mr. Kitson seconds it. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need approval of monthly revenue report, claims paid in vacation, and payroll paid. Is there a motion for that? Mr. Copine moves, Mr. Bivens seconds. Any discussion? If none, Nancy would love to do roll call on this.
White,
Yes.
Zeman,
Yes.
Acree,
Yes.
Acree? Thank you. Bivens,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
Freo,
Yes.
Gascoigne,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Kitson,
Yes.
Copine,
Yes.
Laram,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Sheline,
Yes.
Shippert,
Yes.
Schragstad,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Motion carried. We'll go to the approval of board member mileage and per diem. Do we have a motion to approve that? Mr. Sheeline moves, Mr. Copine seconds. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Need a motion to adjourn. Ms. Naylor moves, Mr. Hudson seconds. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.